Welcome to the Brand Forum. I'm your host, Jeremy Bloom, with my co-host, Josh Palau. Hi, Josh.
How are you?
I'm great. Oh, hello. And we've got a special guest here. We have a guest that was introduced to us through some mutual pals, and we didn't necessarily. We're both as consumers, and you, Josh, previously as a vegan, you were familiar with this brand. I have seen this brand. I have tried this brand. It's quite delicious. But I didn't know Loren before we jumped into this. And Loren, oh, hello. Welcome to the Brand Forum.
Thank you for having me.
Typically we go and jump in and I'll go and read someone's chat GPT like bio and we have fun with this, but you have such an amazing story and just have persevered and rolled up your sleeves and got shit done. So let's jump into this. Tell us who you are, Loren.
Awesome. So I'm Loren. I grew up in New York City and was raised on the Upper West Side and went to USC in Los Angeles for college. And right after I graduated, it's a crazy story, but I was 22 years old and the lymph nodes in my neck were really swollen. I went to a doctor and he was like, you either have nothing at all or Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so I had to go through a month of testing to figure out what was wrong with me. And at 22 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma and had to undergo 6 months of chemo. And it was crazy. I mean, no one ever wants to hear that. But at 22, when you're seemingly so healthy, it was such a shock. And I was really depressed for a couple months. And all my friends were partying, starting their first full-time jobs. Like
22 years old.
Yeah, 20, like top of the world,
In California, right?
The beginning of your life, and I'm living at home. I'm going to a doctor every week. I'm not feeling my best. So I spent a couple months super depressed and I started to see a therapist and she really helped me like rewire my brain and just start to think like, instead of this being like the worst thing that ever happened to me, what if this could become kind of my strength? And it helped me just kind of turn the ship around because I saw it. I was like, I can either just let myself continue going down this dark, depressing path where you just feel like, woe is me. I'm, blaming the world for all the
Right.
negative things when there's really no answer, or I'm going to take control of my life as much as possible and I'm going to lead my life down the most positive path possible. So I didn't like feeling sad and alone. And I decided like, I'm not going down that dark path anymore. Like I'm putting, I'm going through a tunnel, like tunnel vision, not getting distracted by anything negative. This is a tunnel of positive energy. And I'm going to just keep doing things that make me feel great and strong. So I started studying nutrition. I thought food was like the most important thing because besides the medicine, like what else do I have control of to feed my body every day that could help give it energy? So I started studying nutrition and take cooking classes. So that I could learn how to make myself delicious food, but make it healthy.
Yeah.
And,
Love
I was raised in New York City with like great food all the time. And my parents were good cooks, but no one taught me how to cook. No one taught me about nutrition. I didn't really understand the difference between different oils or flours or types of sweeteners or sugars or salt. And like, this is, more than 15 years ago. So this is like now all these things are talked about, but it wasn't really talked about when I was going through all this. I was kind of like this weird hippie trying to figure this all out myself. And so I started to become obsessed with just clean, less processed ingredients, healthier oils, healthier types of flour, sweeteners, sugars, just more real, less processed. And I just felt like food tasted better. It had more flavor and I felt better after I ate it. So I just fell in love with that world. And I have a huge sweet tooth. I love to bake. I used to work at Levain Bakery on the Upper West Side.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
That was my neighborhood bakery. And
Yep.
I was there like watching people line up for blocks for warm, fresh cookies. And there was just something, I got that bug for baking and like what it does to people and how a delicious baked good and something warm out of the oven and something truly unique is just like, it's what people look forward to. It's the happiest moment of their day. So I was like, I'm going to remake a chocolate chip cookie, but I'm going to make it as wholesome as possible, but make sure it's still decadent and delicious. So I started to just recipe test I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of batches like a crazy person. Like I
Were you
just,
doing that? Were you doing this
in my
at your
mom's,
parents' house
in my mom's
on the
kitchen,
Upper West Side? Okay, cool.
Upper West
Cool.
Side, it just batch after batch. And, I have a really picky younger sister. And soon she was like, these are the best cookies in the world. And, wow, I feel good after I eat them. I don't get that like crazy sugar headache or like sugar high and drop.
Totally.
And I'd start to give them to neighbors. I would bring them, to every party I went to. And thankfully, after 6 months of chemo, I was cured. But my doctor was like,
Good.
I still need to check you out, a couple times a year. You still need to stay kind of close to me for the next 5 years. So I just, instead of moving back to California, I really just stayed in New York so I could be close to my family and my doctor. And after the treatment was done, he was like, go be normal, go get a job now and go. And I was like, I just can never be normal again. Like my life is so different. I'm not
Right.
just kind of mindless, like want to party. I just realized at a young age how precious life is, how health is everything, how joy is everything. And I also felt like I, was exposed to this like secret world, it felt like, of more natural ingredients that are really hard to bake with. But once you kind of crack the code, when I saw the positive reaction of so many people, it was intoxicating. Like I fell in love with it. And I was like, I think I now am equipped to like bring this to as many people as possible and really turn what was a really negative thing in my life into like a superpower. And so I I did try to work in finance. I tried to work at a PR company. I tried to work in a restaurant. Like I was so miserable because when you're an entrepreneur, you just got to do your own thing. And so I entered a baking contest in New York. I won. And that's what kind of gave me the confidence and the support. And what I won from this contest was actually branding and design work. And so an incredible agency helped me like design our packaging. And I had like, just a big deep dive into how important packaging is on shelf, especially when you don't have money for like outside advertising, that it really is sole, source of advertising. There's so much business is involved in that, psychology, competition with other, products on the shelf. Like it blew my mind. And I found out that I was really interested in all those aspects of the business. And I think that's when I really fell in love with consumer packaged goods and launching, being in the food industry is just something I was super passionate about, and trying to figure out how to clean it up in a more modern, delicious way, because really that's what everyone wants. But if we just keep letting food be created by, huge conglomerates and huge companies that don't really care about wellness or, clean ingredients, then like food won't change. It's only going to change if someone like me kind of jumps in and figures it out. So I got into Whole Foods. They were my first customer. Everything that's kind of happened has a million stories behind it. But if I'm trying to kind of speed it up, got into Whole Foods and just so much hustle later. I got into Whole Foods in New York, a couple New York City stores, and I was that one demoing in New York City, bringing a toaster oven in a rolly suitcase on the subway, standing in the refrigerated section of Whole Foods for 4 hours at a time. It was, it was miserable. It was really miserable. But at the same time, I was living my dream and getting to do my own thing. And, what I would hear from people, I just would sample enough that like, I'd meet hundreds of people. And of course I'd hear feedback like, oh, what do you have other flavors, or you should make your packaging like this, or can you create all these new products? And, all this like advice or suggestions of how to make the product better. But what I mostly would hear is, this is genius. Why has no one ever done a better for you cookie dough? Like this tastes so gourmet. Like I can taste the real ingredients. And I just heard that enough. It really gave me the confidence that I was onto something and that I could go for it.
Oh, I mean, that's the podcast, folks.
Sorry.
We're good.
Thank you, Lauren.
I mean, no, that was amazing. Like, I don't know that we're going to ask you some questions about brand building and ad tech, and like you just nailed the assignment. So, I mean, I guess let's go through some of these questions.
Yeah, dig in.
But it is
It
is an amazing story. And again, I shared with you, like I enjoyed the brand. I still do. I didn't know your backstory, and like that's I think it's very interesting because as we talked about like just before we got on, the whole point of this podcast was to talk to brand builders about how they're doing this and how they're staying authentic and building their brand stories in this algorithm, ad tech, data driven world. And so you have a story. And so like, I guess like my first question is like, really like when you think about your story and the brand that you're building or that you've built actually, like how do you balance that out with like, hey, here's all these like data strategies that are out there, all this AI, like how do you keep that authentic? How do you keep it human in an increasingly automated world?
So I think I'm lucky. My husband's in the tech industry and in AI. And so I see that world and I just feel like we can use some AI to help the business, but we're food. Like AI can't do that. We're human. We need to eat. Like we have, families and kids and friends and, like Sweet Loren's now offers more than cookie dough, but, we're the number one natural cookie dough brand and the number three cookie dough, brand in the US and now have, puff pastry and pizza dough and pie crust and we're coming out with many new things in the future. And I think that like where we can use AI and where it's been helpful is in helping pitch, clients. Like there's AI tools to just grow, reach more people faster. We've used AI in social media to like capture where our packaging is, but maybe we're not like tagged in that post. We've used AI in innovation when we're thinking about what could come next. What does, it's like so cool to plug in our, all the data we have now of like who our customer is and where's their white space and what can our factory run and what can we machine and try to think of like, what are cool concepts that, how can we come up with 200 concepts faster than us alone in a room that's actually rooted in data? So all those ways we use AI, but like at the end of the day, we are selling, real food that has to be safe and delicious for people to consume. And I just think that's not trendy. That's something that's not, moving fast. Like it's just a human necessity and it's people's favorite foods. So I think that, we want to stay, our whole goal with Sweet Loren's is to be like the modern baking brand. So we need to stay at the forefront of everything. But,
yeah, let me ask you this then. Just because it's named, your brand is named after you. It's named Sweet Loren's. And as you continue to scale and as you continue to bring new brands, as you mentioned, that are already out there, you're going to continue to bring out more brands. When you think through the authenticity of your story, when you think through what consumers want, what they crave, what your brand proposition and your brand purpose entails, how do you just over time remain authentic to not just you, but your brand as you continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger and have and you're taking on more competitors and you're entering new different aisles in grocery stores and direct consumer chains and overall the digital commerce ecosystem?
I think that my story from day one, just telling the story honestly and like, and very real, like not just like jumping past it, but like really talking about how hard it was, what a young age I got sick, how influential that was in my life. I just think that like we're all, even if we're using as much tech as possible in AI, we're also very human. And I saw from a young age how inspired people were by the story, because I think, it's hopefully inspires young people and older people, but just, we all go through hard things in life. And how do you figure out how to get past it and make it something that actually gives you power and empathy and gives you wisdom versus, something that can kind of cut you down. And so I know what it's like being a one-person show. I started the business. I didn't have any employees the first couple of years. And I was on a high the whole time, just, working 7 days a week, and it was growing every day. And it was so exciting. And, when you get high off your own supply, because you're just loving what you do and it has so much momentum. And then, I felt that burnout. Like I was like, oh my God, if I keep going at this rate, I'm going to hate this because I can't go on vacation. I've missed friends' weddings. I can't go out to, with all my friends all the time. Like there's a real sacrifice that I definitely did in the early years. So, and then I saw what it was like hiring, a young kind of team that was in it to win it with me, but like they didn't have the expertise I needed to really, really scale. So fast forward to today, when I was going to be pregnant with my with my second child, I just knew I needed a true number two. And so I hired a president. And when I brought Doug on, who's our president, who's been here for almost 3 years, the goal was to build something super sustainable so that I could truly take vacation. Doug could truly take vacation. We could all take vacation because it wasn't so reliant on one human, and that was a big deal. And we went from being like a 10-person team. Now we're a 30-person team with incredible systems in place and structure. And I'm the face of the brand. I do the PR. I do the podcast. I will do speaking gigs. I love this part. I love creating community and talking to people. But at the same time, like I am not the brand and the brand needs to live without me.
Right.
Like the brand is called Sweet Loren's. There's a story behind it, but we really are selling food to, every type of grocery store, from a Whole Foods to a Target to a, Wegmans, Kroger, Publix. And the goal is to change the food industry in mass America and really make cleaner, better for you foods, allergen-free foods. All of Sweet Loren's products are not just delicious, but as you said, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's nut-free, it's soy-free. So it's like free of the top allergens. And there's a real need for that. And there's a real white space in the market. So I think to me, success is building a really sustainable business that actually doesn't need me. The funny part is it's called Sweet Loren's. The story, my cancer story, surviving cancer, is on the back of the package, on all of our packages. Yeah. There's a picture of me on the back of all packages.
Josh had mentioned this to me. Yeah.
I don't know the percentage of people that read the back of pack, but it is small. It is not the majority. And so I think that if you dig deeper into the brand, you'll love knowing that there's a real founder and there's a real story behind it. But at the end of the day, most people want something that's fun, something that pops off shelf, something that grabs their attention, something that's super delicious, something that solves a need in their home. And, thankfully, the world wants cleaner, more natural, better for you options. And now people, that have food allergies or different lifestyles, feel like they can eat whatever they want.
This week, we've got some food for bot with our Comscore data diva, Aubriana Alvarez Lopez, co-founder and COO at Ignicio.ai. Do you think AI could help break down the silos created by walled gardens?
Sam, I think AI is the sledgehammer, but brands and agencies have to swing it, right? Walled gardens are not going to open up out of kindness, and it's time to use AI to work smarter with what they do have, which are contextual signals, first-party data, and real-time supply intelligence. So we don't really need to break in to connect the dots. We've got to rewire the system so that advertisers can move faster, target better, and stop being held hostage by black boxes. The revolution is here, and now it's really up to marketers to lead it or get revolutionized.
So whether you crave sweet metrics, savory solutions, or a little AI spice, we hope this episode gave your algorithm the food for bot it was hungry for.
Yeah, that's great. The passion, the enthusiasm, I love the analogy of getting high on your own product, which is actually the opposite of what they tell you in The Wire. And so hopefully somebody gets that reference.
So good.
But it really is. But it's so when you think, so your consumers, you have this great story that you tell. Is there a channel, a tactic? I'm not trying to get in the weeds of your marketing campaigns, but I feel like we talk to a lot of brand marketers and, we're doing all this stuff with programmatic and we're doing this. And by the way, it's all wonderful, smart things. But it just feels like your niche might position you differently. Where do your people respond, or where do you find the most success?
It's a great question. I think we're honestly still doing a ton of testing. We built this business on the most incredible community and fans. So really our job was building an incredible sales team and getting into all the top supermarkets. So we're now sold in over 30,000 supermarkets. And so getting that distribution, but really it was raving fans that would share it on their own social media, that would tell their friends, that would just love it. And email us and say, how can we help you? We stay in business. We want you to keep growing. Can you create these products? So for a decade almost, we relied pretty much on word of mouth and loyalty. And
loyalty is the word. Yeah. It sounds like
loyalty.
loyalists and community.
Huge. And just supporting that community through social media, through incredible customer service. And then we actually just brought on an SVP of marketing. And so she's in the process of testing a ton of programmatic. There's a ton of geo-targeting, digital couponing. We work with all these different supermarkets. They all work differently. So there's not just like a one easy size fits all. We're not getting a Super Bowl commercial yet. So there, and our business is mostly sold in supermarkets. It's not D2C yet. Yeah, exactly. D2C. So that there's that other component of just, we really are, our business is people going into supermarkets and buying versus something you can easily measure, with like an affiliate link if it was an online product, just because our product is refrigerated. So it has to be shipped in the cold supply chain, which is expensive. And so, yes, that's always been the challenge is like, how to easily market and grow this category. Cause we're really coming into the whole refrigerated dough category and completely modernizing it. And right now there's just a monopoly. It's just been run by the same huge brand for decades and it's dying. It's dying. And so our customer base is so new to the category. Over half our customers have never shopped the category before. So like we have
So this is what I was going to ask you. So I love that you're talking about just, it's somewhat to me, and probably to a lot of our audience that are now going to be some that are probably loyalists to Sweet Loren's and others that are finding out about Sweet Loren's and know this is not a paid promotion. We were introduced through mutual friends. And so it sounds almost as much you're absolutely the challenger. You're taking on somewhat of an antiquated legacy category where there haven't been too many challengers. You're taking on the incumbent. And what I heard in the first few minutes of the beginning of our discussion was also just your passion for branding, your passion for design, and would love to hear a little bit more because as the whole topic of the brand forum and how to build a brand, tell us a little bit more about the creative aspects and creative elements that are going through your head and like your team when you're in the frozen food section, when you're trying to get allure new customers, or wherever your different products are going to be placed. Go from there.
It's so important. So when I launched Sweet Loren's, I wish I could like show you what the original packaging looked like, but it was so
You'll
bad.
email us later.
It was so bad. It was what you would think a 20-some-year-old would design with no experience and no budget, right? Like I just got a friend to design it for like a couple $100s and I didn't know anything about anything. And I launched it, but I told you for that first year of getting into Whole Foods, I was that person demoing. And that, even though it was really hard and such a physical hustle running around the city doing those demos, it was like gold because I learned so much talking to hundreds and hundreds of people and really listening to them and really realizing this is not about me anymore. Like, I don't even care what I like about the product anymore. Like, this is about listening to the customer and solving a problem. So like, that was the first step of like throwing my ego out the window and being like, how do I just win? How do I win to make people happy? How do I win on it has to get on the shelf to even play the game. So how do I get it on the shelf? And then once it's on the shelf, how do I listen to my customers so closely that I solve their problems and it makes them want to buy us, even if we're $1 or $2 more expensive, but they're happy to do it because we offer X, Y, and Z that the big guys don't. And so that was like a year of incredible learning so that when I won this contest and I won this incredible agency designed my packaging, I knew how to direct them because I knew what the customer wanted. I knew what colors they were asking for, what popped, what the call outs were that made sense. And so it really helped me direct them. And when, it was like, I worked with them for like a year and it was an incredible crash course in packaging design and advertising and psychology. And, I think in my head, when I started the business, like it's a great product. People will find it wherever it is in the store, whatever the packaging looks like. Like not the case, maybe like the raving fan will hunt you down. But if you want to catch, Jane and Joe as they walk down the aisle, like you got to pop and you got to, in 3 seconds, explain to them who you are. And also, I realized how important taste is. I mean, of course, a cookie needs to be delicious, but it has to be a 10 out of 10, like that level of delicious, because people are picky and there's a lot of choice out there. And so I think like it was so powerful. And what it really helped me do, thankfully, is like realize how much I love the marketing aspect of the brand, like how important, how much respect I have for kind of the copy and the voice of the brand and the colors you choose. And again, the psychology and the business and the competitive side of like why it wins, why some packaging wins and doesn't. So, and then also how it's like ever evolving, like you can't just set it and forget it. Like the world, we used to call ourselves all natural. And then that became like, well, you can't use that anymore, and then it became, well, we're just non-GMO and plant-based. And it's like, people don't care about that as much anymore. And so anyways, we've always had to like move our call outs around, even though we've never really changed anything. Just what is the verbiage and what are the call outs that make sense, at this time for, who are we speaking to? And for us, it's really millennials and Gen Z are our audience. What are they looking for? And we've just, again, continue to really listen to the customer. So I think for all those reasons, we do advertising, of course, outside of our packaging now, but like at the end of the day, the packaging does the biggest work for us. And so it's got to represent the brand and it's got to sell itself.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I have one last question for you. I think I know the answer, even though we've just met. I'm gonna ask anyway, but I just want to actually hit on a big point of like, and again, in a world that I spent a lot of time in ad tech and marketing and all these things, and it sounds like you're getting there with your SVP. So it'll be interesting to see where you take things. I just love the idea that like, because at the most, I had a really smart marketer I work with who said the job of the marketer is not that hard. It's really just to make a meaningful connection with the consumer, right? And then now complicating your supply or your sales path is you need to build mental resonance or mental awareness when I walk into that store to know where that cookie is. And so the design around the package, like how you're listening to people, that you're having tremendous success avoiding the world in which we tend to play in, which is amazing. Because I think once you turn what you learned into things that then can be more targetable, more addressable, like I have nothing but like, I think you're going to be great. And you don't need my opinion. I just made it 10 minutes ago, but still, I'm just saying, like, this was very refreshing. Again, to hear someone talk about how deep you are in the consumer and what that means. I think a lot of companies miss that. And I think it's a skill that just hasn't been, it's a skill we kind of forget because we think, well, I have an automated tool that tells me this person bought this product 3 months ago and they're running out, so they'll probably buy it again.
You are your customer, Lauren. You give a shit. Right. That's what matters.
Hunger, yeah. And where's the hunger to not like freaking improve? Like you think it's set it and forget it. Like I am sure every time you print that packaging, you renew that packaging once a year, whenever it's bought again, there is a chance to optimize. Like things have changed. Like your customer base is growing. We always are managing, like, we have a customer base that clearly some are vegan, some are dairy free, some are gluten free, soy free, nut free. Maybe their kid goes to a nut free school. Like they're dealing with some sort of food allergies or lifestyles. And then we have another massive customer base that just wants simple, trustworthy, high quality ingredients. Yeah. And so those are like, even though they're the same audience, because maybe they all want clean, you could target them very differently. And so I think like we're always kind of weighing and testing, like, how do we get everyone? And how do we make sure, the people that have true food allergies, like we're life-changing for them. They're so loyal and they buy us weekly because there's really nothing else on the market for them. And if they live in a city where, I grew up in New York City where there was just like a lot of options. Like if they grow up in an area where there's like just not a ton of options, right? They're really grateful that their local supermarket has such a high quality refrigerated cookie dough that they can bake off and, have an incredible experience, as if it were a bakery. And so I think like there's so many ways to slice it. And we're just trying to figure out like, how do you make sure you can't get everyone. So how are we focusing? And what's the best opportunity for Sweet Loren's? And how do we grow as fast as possible and really make more people happy? And yeah, I mean, I care a lot about the customer. I care a lot about the food industry improving. And I just like didn't work this hard to just plateau, like I worked this hard to be taken this seriously to now super excel and make a difference.
Yeah. So less serious question, and given where we are in this episode will come out after this happens, but so you grew up in New York, so did I. You now live in LA. So is it Knicks or Lakers?
Depends what city I'm in. I can go either way. But I moved here right before COVID. So I've been here for 5 years, and now we have 2 little kids. And as I said, my husband's in tech. So it's like we needed a place where we both of our careers could thrive. And honestly, I couldn't do the apartment living anymore. So like now having a home and a house and a backyard, it's like, it's everything. So anyway, I have to say I'm a New Yorker at heart. I'm a hustler at heart, but I am happy with the lifestyle out here, so
I'm sure.
So go team, go.
Awesome.
So go.
Exactly right. It's Team Sweet Loren. How about that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Team Sweet Loren. Very well said. Very well said. Loren, we really appreciate you joining us on the Brand Forum, which is a show by Marketecture Media. Thank you so much. Josh, as always, thank you, my co-host. It was awesome hearing about your story, you building your brand, understanding more about the emotion, the passion, the design, the customer, the experience, and most importantly, just the growth that you've had both as a entrepreneur, but also as a marketer, understanding who you're marketing to, and congrats on the continuous growth. Thank you for joining us. Cool.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I will say, I think a lot of people shy away from being authentic. And I really think we're one of the fastest growing companies in the US for the last 7 years in a row. Badass. And I think it's because we've been so authentic and relatable and really tried to fill a need and not be a me too. So hopefully
we can see from this conversation.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.